what I want people to realize is everything you do has an impact. You affect everybody around you, how you show up, especially the ones in the impact zone, your family, your coworkers, your friends. And when we change, they change. Because normally I'm a reactive person. If you hit me, I hit you back. But when I start to take control of my life and stop being a victim, then I can change the world. I was a victim for most of my life. And what happened when I turned of age and I got my draft notice, I won the draft lottery. My number was 34. I finally won something. And then, but I'm real Catholic. You know, I'm raised Catholic. No matter how much I say, oh, I'm a recovering Catholic. No, I'm Catholic. I was born that way. It's ingrained in me. And I don't believe in killing. For any reason, I think it's wrong. And I had a friend that had a record, and the only branch that would take him was the Marines. And he said to me, let's go in the Marines. I says, I'm going to wait till the FBI take me. I'm not going in. But he kept bugging me. And I thought it was a great way to hurt my parents because, you know, at that age, everything is black and white. Because when you're not out on your own, you don't see it. You know, my whole world was my parents and how they acted in my society. And they'd say one thing and do something else. So to me, they were hypocrites. And I learned passive aggressive because my father was big. So trying to get back even with him in a fight wasn't going to happen. But I could do that passive aggressive nonsense. So when I went home and I had joined the Marines, and my buddy hadn't joined, he said, did you join? I says, yeah. You didn't join yet? He says, you better get down there because I'm not going alone. So we both signed up, and I go home and I tell my parents. And I did it with that youthful arrogance, that know-it-all, that, you know, at that age you know everything. And my father looks at me and he says, what are you going in for? You don't believe in killing. I says, well, it must be all right. The church doesn't stop it, so it must be okay. And I want to experience what it's like to kill somebody. My mother sat there and cried. And to this day, I wish I could take that back. In most of my life, I do things and I have no idea what the consequences are. So it's taught me to be more mindful. So my mother sits there and I die inside. And I don't say anything, and my father looks at me like he knows something I don't, but he's not going to tell me. So I go in the Marines. I have an attitude. I fought all the time when I was a kid, and I fought when I got in. And I got into a fight with my commanding officer, and he said to me, well, what happened was I didn't show up for an inspection. They have these, you know, inspections, and I figured, I'm not going to this inspection. So, because nobody's going to tell me what to do. So I was doing laundry. He comes in the laundry room. He says to me, you know, you and I are going to have a big fight and you're going to lose. I said, oh, really? So I'm pretty arrogant. So like a week later, I'm on duty, and at that time I was guarding nuclear missiles. And I read the whole manual, so I knew what I could do and what I could get away with. And you have to draw your weapon, and you had a .45, and you have to have it unholstered the whole time somebody else is there. But they didn't say where you had to point it. So when he came in, I unholstered my weapon and I pointed it at his head. And I could see the sweat forming on this guy, and he signed a paper and left. And then 2 weeks later, I got orders to go to Vietnam. And he invites me into his office and says, what do you think of that, Zaleski? I says, I think the only way you're going to get me over there is if you chain me to a helicopter, because I'm not going. He says, is that right? I said, that's right. And then we talked a little bit. I had been in the Merchant Marines before that, and he had a son my age, and he said, if my son goes in the Merchant Marines, will that make a man of him? I says, if he's not a man when he goes in, he's not going to be one when he comes out. So, and then I left his office and I go home on leave and I don't tell my parents because I hurt my parents enough. And I don't tell them anything. I just said, I have orders, I'm going out to California. And while I'm home, I got on my knees and I prayed and I says, God, help me, because I don't think I have the courage to not shoot another man. I'm afraid and I want to live. And I decided I wasn't going to run to Canada. I was going to go suffer the consequences for my actions. I went to California, prepared to go to prison for 5 years or face the firing squad. While I'm there, while I go into staging to ship out, I was supposed to go with 5 other guys. They all go. When it came my turn, I said, I'm not going. He said, don't worry, you're a coward, your orders have been changed. I'm like, thank you, God. But later on, I realized it was probably my commanding officer realized that I would get killed or have everybody around me killed. A month before I get out, figuring I dodged that bullet and I'm safe, and at that age, you don't think anything's going to happen. I definitely didn't think of what's the consequences of what's going on. A month before I get out, I see one of the 5 and he's limping. I said, what happened? He said, we all got shot and 2 are dead. I had this flood of emotions, anger, guilt, shame, all of that at once. Did I do the right thing? Could I have saved them? Would I have got them all killed because if I didn't draw a weapon? All that stuff flooded my mind. I didn't know what. When I got out, I decided, you know what, they fought and suffered for my freedom. I'm not going to wear shoes because I didn't want them to die and suffer for nothing. So I stopped wearing shoes when I got out as a memorial for them. But if anybody came up to me and says, hey, how come you don't wear shoes? I'd say, I don't feel like it. You got a problem with that? I fought everybody. I was that way for 33 years. And I started to make little changes, and because I was just a miserable, angry person because of the way they treated us when we got out. The media saying, we're baby killers. People were calling me baby killer. They didn't even know me. So they say that, we, as soldiers, we have post-traumatic stress. We have a moral injury. We have to live with that. We have to live what we've done and seen. Everybody has post-traumatic stress unless you're a chair. It affects everything that happens to us affects us. But we have this moral injury on top because we're not trained to kill our whole lives. We're trained not to kill our whole lives, and then for 12 weeks we train somebody to kill, and then they go do it, and then they come home. And people would say to me when I walked across the country, oh, what's their problem? They're home, they're safe, just get over it. I says, okay, you're driving your car, your whole family's in the car, you get into this horrific accident, everybody in the car is killed but you, and it might be your fault, it may not, we don't really know. Get over it. When you drive in a car that accidents happen, get over it. We can't relate with one another. That's the difference between civilians and veterans, because we've had an experience that I hope to God none of you ever have. So we have to learn to look at one another different and put ourselves in somebody else's spot. Because when we do that, we get rid of this divide, because it seems that we always try to create, the differences between us. Let's look at our similarities. That's what we have to do to help heal this. And what happened in 2005, it was a little bit after 9/11, and they declared war. And I heard the same verbiage then that I heard back when I was a kid, that we've exhausted every means of resolving this situation, and our only recourse is war. My blood boiled because I heard that before. And if their kids were on the front line, I'm sure they might find 1 or 2 more ways to resolve it. But I don't really want to get into politics, but I know that I can do something about what's going on, and that's what I strive to do. So what I did, I wanted to create awareness, because I found out then that 18 vets a day committed suicide because of what they went through. So I figured I would create awareness. So I did the Appalachian Trail barefoot. And in my attempt to create awareness, because I had people write petitions to Washington, what happened was, it was my penance to forgive myself for sitting on my hands for 33 years, blaming everybody else and saying, they should do this, they should do something about it. I never looked in the mirror. The day I looked in the mirror, I saw me. I'm somebody. I care. I can do something. And it's up to each one of us. You have no idea the power and the impact you have on everybody around you. If you smile at somebody and touch them gently, or if you scowl at them and say something nasty, it affects them for the rest of the day. You have no idea the impact that you have and everybody around you. So after I did that walk and I saw nothing change, I decided that wasn't enough. I decided I created awareness, but awareness is no good unless you have a plan, and a plan's no good unless you get it instituted, and after you get it instituted, you have to get people to do it. So then in 2010 and 11, I went barefoot across America carrying a sign that said 18 vets a day commit suicide. And that was another learning curve for me, because my goal was, I figured, well, it's going to be like MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. I'm going to go to Washington and they're going to change laws and do this or that. But I learned that you don't go tell somebody what to do. You go and do it. Then you ask them for help. And with Washington, you go and ask them for help and then give them the credit for doing it. And that's the only difference. But it made sense to me. So after I did that, I went and opened up a homeless shelter. And at the homeless shelter, I learned the difference between helping and enabling. Because we had the homeless shelter in the Keys for 2 years. Every drunk in the Keys loved me. I gave them a safe place. They didn't have to work. They didn't have to do anything. And they could spend all their money on booze, and they didn't have to be harassed by the police. When I closed, they had nothing to do with me. And I realized I hadn't helped them. And my biggest lesson was near the end of when I had that shelter, this guy I was taking care of my folks. And then I would come back to the shelter. So at night I would go home and be with my folks and come in the morning. I'd come in the morning and the guy's there, and I had 9 guys living at my place, you know, fat and happy, because we fed them too. So they say, no, a friend of yours came in last night and used the shower. I built an outdoor shower at the shelter because it's hot down there, you always get sweaty, and I was always taking showers, and they had it for everybody. So I come in, they say, oh, a friend of yours came and used the shower last night, and he took a shit in it and left. Everybody there couldn't clean that shower. They had all these rare diseases, or they had disabilities where they couldn't clean the shower. I cleaned that shower. I was furious. It happened a second time. Nobody could clean it but me. I'm cleaning the shower and I'm like, God, what are you trying to tell me? And then I realized that guy was me. Because I would have broken that shower a few years ago to show you couldn't help me. Because nobody was going to tell me what to do. And then I realized that everybody that came into that shelter, I judged. Oh, well, you're a drug addict, you got to get clean. Oh, you're a bum, you got to get a job. Oh, you're an alcoholic, you got to quit drinking. I didn't give them a chance to change because I made them defend themselves, because when I judged them, they had to defend themselves. So when I learned to accept a guy like, hey, this is where you are. If you want my help, this is what I'll do for you. This is what I want from you. And if you can't do that, I can't help you, because you don't need my help sleeping in your own puke. You're doing great. So what really happened, that was like a major learning curve for me. But still, after that shelter, I moved up here to Venice. And I would outreach, I would go to the farmers markets and do things and outreach one person at a time and, be there. We would help them financially or whatever, and I would do stuff like that. But when the corona hit, it changed everything. It stopped, because I was a one-man show working on my dime since 2006. One of the guys that I helped in the Keys was instrumental in saving this kid's life. His father was the head of a foundation, and I would talk to him, and he'd say, "Do you need money?" He said, "No, you know, I don't know what I'm doing, and if I figure out something, I'll let you know." And I tell him I'm writing a book, and he says, "Well, could you use some money for writing the book?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, will 20 grand help?" I says, "Yeah, 20 grand would help." So I stay in touch with him, and I say, "Look, I'm starting to expand this thing, and would you help me?" He says, "You're my pet project." He hired people to help us make this sustainable. He says, "I don't want my money to be wasted. I want to help you. I love what you do." So he's paid for 5 employees. He's put us like on steroids. And then we developed a mentorship program because of what I learned on my walks and my experience in my walks is that we have to change our perception, our perspective, and then we can create a new mission, because when we get out of the military, we're lost. I was lost. I'm still a little lost, but not as lost as I used to be. But so, because, you know, like, it's funny, I talk to a lot of people my age, and it seems they forget they were ever kids. They forget they were 17 and clueless. They think they always knew everything. I thought I knew everything then. Now I know I don't know anything. So my transformation has been long, and every time when I would walk or meet somebody on the trail that they would get me angry, a memory would come up with that anger. And I would see where it started from in my childhood. And then I would start to shift, because when I attack you, there's no hope. You can't listen to me because you're too busy trying to figure out you're defending yourself. But if I listen and help support you in what you're doing, then you can hear me. And then since I walk the talk, you can hear me. And since I was in the Marines, a service guy can hear me. And with all the anger I had, I understand their anger. So they know I've been where they are. So they can hear me. But, you know, it doesn't matter to me if, you know, everybody has a gift. Even if you just weave baskets or make pot holders, but you share that gift with another person, you're sharing the most valuable thing you have, your time and your presence. So many people in this world think they're alone. There's 9 billion people on this planet, and people think they're alone. Where the hell can you go when there isn't somebody there? But they're afraid to reach out and touch, because it's this fear that we're all afraid of. We're all humans. We're all alike. We're not, you know, we work so hard to make it like you're different than me. I'm Polish and you're Irish. So what? We're all human. We've got 2 eyes and a nose. Once we start to get rid of those differences and look at our similarities, then we can, you know, we can correct these things. But so we developed a 10-challenge program. And they're little baby steps. And I'm going to give you the first challenge now. And this first challenge, we put it on the internet for less than an hour, and we had to take it down because we had too many people sign up. And I tried to mentor 40 people at once. You can't do that, because you can't give them the time that they need to make that connection. Okay? The first challenge, which saved one man's life in the first 2 weeks we did this challenge. This guy had a gun in his mouth. And it took him 2 days to answer the first challenge. The first challenge is, what are you grateful for when you wake up? And then before you go to bed at night, what are you grateful that you accomplished? And you think, how did it take this guy 2 days? This man thought he was a monster, and I know what that feels like. And it took him 2 days to find what he was grateful for. And that changed his life, just that one thing. It's simple, but it's powerful. And all the challenges are like that. If you come to us for financial aid, we give you 4 challenges like that. If you can't answer them, I can't help you, because I'm just enabling you, and I will not do that. I don't want you to do the work for me. I want you to work with me. You know, I'm not going to sit on the curb and have you push my car, and I'm going to sit there, drink a soda, and watch you. You got to work together, otherwise it's pointless. It has no value. So that's that is the biggest thing we do. We do a lot of events, so it's fun, and the people see what we're doing on the internet, so they see we're active and they want to get involved. But the thing I like people to get involved is in that mentorship program, and it's a challenge to do all 10 of them, because they get incrementally a little harder. But some challenges are harder for other people than others. But they are life-altering, because they help you change your perspective, help you change your perception. Because if you don't make that shift when you get out, when I got out, I'm angry. These guys, when they get out, they're angry. Because you know, you're told one thing, and you believe in the John Wayne movies and stuff, and then you go in, and it's not like that. It's not a John Wayne movie. And people are really dying. And we really do terrible things, you know, and supposedly for the right reason. You know, to me, war is wrong no matter what. I hope, you know, I'll do anything to defend my family. But to attack somebody, I mean, that's just my personal issue. But I know that we all need help, and we're all human. And you have to make it through that. When I walked across the country and I met the Indians, you know, it's funny, when I started at Concord, Mass, I started where the first shot was fired that was heard around the world. And then I went to where the Boston Tea Party was. They can't keep a mock of the ship up without it being burnt down, because the Irish still hate the English. Then I went around Paul Revere's route. Then I went to Ground Zero, where the twin trade towers were blown down. We're still fighting that war. Then I did the Civil War trail down. And I understand why the rebels have a problem with the Yankees. I'm only 3rd generation here, so it's like I had nothing to do with any of that stuff. But when I went by graveyards full of thousands of Confederate troops, and right next to it is a placard from the North saying how bad the North beat the South, I was offended. I was angry. I'm surprised they didn't chop that sign down. I would have. Then I went across the Trail of Tears, and what we've done to the Indians, and still do, that's a crime. And when I was there, I had more Indians stop me in the desert to talk to me than when I walked through New York City. And I got an eagle feather from a medicine man, and they accepted me into their tribe, and they did the ceremony because they honor their warriors, because war to them is part of their culture. In our culture, we accept it. There, it is part of their culture because they know the cost and everybody's involved. So every day when I walked, you know, the Appalachian Trail was physically brutal. My feet were so calloused that, like, one day I went to scrape gum off of my heel and I found something shiny under it, and it was a staple. It was a 3/16" staple in my foot, and I didn't feel it. And that was physically brutal. But when I walked across the country carrying that sign, every day I would hold a mother or father that lost a child to suicide, hold me like I was that child, cry on my shoulder like I was that child, and then blame themselves and telling me it's my fault. He told me I didn't believe him. I should have known it's my fault. The reason I did these walks was because I could not live with myself any longer sitting on my hands. And I knew I had to do something. I shut down my business. And people say, oh, that's crazy, I can't do that, I can't leave my children. Well, you know what, if you got hit by a truck tonight, guess what, you'd leave them. I don't want to be on my deathbed and say, I should have done something, I could have done something. Do it now. Even if it's smile at somebody and call up a relative that you haven't talked to because you have some difference, and you call them up and say, what did I do to cause this? Help me fix this. Because when you're gone, you'll never have that conversation. You'll never have that conversation with these young men that kill themselves every day. And they think they're alone, and they're not alone. You know, this thing where you're worried about, oh, I don't know what signs to look for, oh, am I going to say the right thing? Talk to them. Let them know you care. You have no idea how much that means. One day I was walking, and I still walk with my sign. And I was walking after I had walked the trail, and I've been walking for years, and I'm walking, and I have this internal conversation going. I talk to God a lot, and He answers me once in a while. And I'm saying, God, you know, I can't keep doing this. I'm getting tired. And I hear this voice says, I know you are, but I'm not. And I want you to keep doing this. I'm like, okay. The next day I walk. This 20-year-old man comes up to me. He says, thank you for being here. I was going to kill myself today. So you have no idea the impact you have just smiling at a stranger. That stranger might have been like, you know, this is, I can't do it anymore. Nobody cares. You smile at that guy in a bus. Or just say, hey, how are you doing? If you do it from a place of love, you can't go wrong. If you do it from a place without judgment, you can't go wrong. When I closed down my business, every day was an adventure. I didn't have any expectations. I didn't have a routine, so it was hard for me to get annoyed about things because I never knew what to expect. I was in the moment. I was present. When I had my business, I'm worried about what's going to go on tomorrow, what I should do today, what's going on. You know, I wasn't living. I was just reacting to life around me. But when I went and took charge of my life and took control and stopped being the victim and did something, then I was present. I was in the moment. And I could look somebody in the eye and listen to them. And when I was on the trail, I met these two Marines. And they came up to me and they says, we've been trying to catch up to you for a month. And we talked a little bit. And the guy came to me at night, one of the two. And he's Catholic and he's Polish. We had and a Marine, so we had the trifecta going there. And he said to me, he says, I've killed men, women, and children, young and old. Am I going to go to hell? In that instant, I knew what I said meant something. And it carried value. And I was scared. Because this is the first time somebody wanted my opinion. In that instant, I says, God, help me, because I don't know what to say. You say it. And then I said the first thing that came to my mind, I says, it doesn't matter what I say if you don't believe me. You didn't do anything wrong. But you have to forgive yourself. And that guy he was an angry guy. He was drinking all the way through the trail. And then, and he said he was there because when he went home, his wife says, I don't know who you are. Don't come home until you bring my husband home. So he went on the trail. And then I don't know what happened to him, right? And then while I was walking across the country, I was in Arizona. And this guy, on the Appalachian Trail, I'm kind of a little of a legend, you know. There's only one other guy that did it barefoot, and I think he was lying. But, so this guy in Arizona knew who I was, and he says, oh, I walked the trail, I heard about you, and my trail name was Tyvek. That's the name I gave myself. But they give you a trail name. All the other hikers give you a trail name. And when I told this guy, I says, I asked him, what's your trail name? He says, Cornbread. I says, why? He says, because I like cornbread. I says, well, my trail name is Tut. Before I could say it, he says, I know what you call yourself, but that's not what we call you. I says, what do you call me? He says, we call you the holy shit man. How does he do it? And it's funny because, guy on the trail, they have magazines of cooking magazines. They look at food, that's like their Playboy. And they talk about gear in their feet. I remember coming on, there was a circle of guys, and you hear them, and they're all talking about, oh yeah, I got this gear, and all my gear I made myself. I made it out of Tyvek house wrap. Because I wanted to be like an Indian, but I didn't want to kill anything, and I wanted to be self-sufficient and repair my own gear and, not rely on anybody. I would have ate along the trail if I could. I did when I could, but, I couldn't scavenge like the Indians did. So, every experience and every encounter we have with somebody, that shapes us, that changes us. And it's our choice what we do with that. I can be angry, like with my father. I could be angry and blame my father for the rest of my life, that he beat me, and I was a drunk because of my father, and I'm because of him. My father's not there now, it's me, it's my choice. I'm the one in charge. So I would like it if you guys just take that to heart and just think about it, and if you want, take a look at our mentorship program. And you know what? The first challenge, email me your challenge. We'll hook you up with a mentor, because we need more mentors, because when we did that challenge program, like I said, we had it up for less than an hour, we had to take it down. We're building more mentors so that we can open it up again. And how we do it is, we don't judge, because when I first started this, I'm like, oh, do you need help? What veteran, what person is going to say, oh, I need help? Especially, guys in the military and Marines. We're not going to ask for help, even if our legs cut off. We're not going to ask for help. What we did, we asked, who wants to help the veterans? That's when we had so many inquiries, we had to shut it down. And the more mentors we get on board now, when we open that line up again, we'll have enough people to handle it. Because we'll only let you take care of 4 people at a time so that you can devote the time. And you only have to do one. Or you could just do the mentorship for you. Because when you change, your whole world changes, because you affect everybody around you. When you walk around with a smile, that people are going to want to know, what the hell are you doing? Or it's going to be a different world, because most of us react instead of act. We do mindfulness programs. We're doing, with the mentorship program, we're going to be doing mini workshops and retreats to help give you more tools. One of the first ones we're going to be doing is a suicide program, so that you'll have more confidence, because if you come from a place of love and you're listening to a guy, you're not going to go wrong. If you tell a guy, yeah, you should kill yourself, well, yeah, it's probably a good chance that he will kill himself. But if you talk to him and just listen to him and let him vent, because usually a feeling comes and goes. So if you can talk to a guy through 20 minutes, he's usually well on his way and he gets out of it. Because we have that instinct for self-preservation. We all want to live. We all want to be happy.